Namaskar. My name is Kaustav Sengupta and I talk about historical and ancient information about India and all the contexts around India. Today we are going to talk about Buddha and the very basic understanding of Buddha's elements, the visual elements. And one of these very important element which you might have noticed but many a time we don't question is about his long ear. So if you see a Buddhist sculpture or a sculpture of Buddha, Gautama Buddha, you will see most of these sculptures or the busts of Buddha will have a long ear. And it's not only a modern interpretation, it has been there from the beginning. You can see how it's being also depicted in Gandhara sculptures, and at that time how the long ear used to be persistently present in most of the context as such. So my topic today in the discussion is why Buddha's ear is so long and why it is having a slit inside. I know it's a long cut. You can see it here well. Maybe here you can see it well. You can see there's a long cut kept as such. And what it means philosophically, visually, and how and why this is being implemented in the sculpture. In my journey in life, I have been in multiple monasteries, and it is very calm to be in the monastery. It's very interesting to look at this whole context of monks being around and the simplest way of living. And I used to also notice this particular feature which will appear in all these Buddhist sculptures as such. So one fine day I tried to find out what is the meaning of it, and is there a meaning, or is it a representation, or is it something to feature to represent Buddha as such. So I came to know very interestingly that many and most of the elements of religion around the world has iconographies or visual representations of a philosophical thought. One of these representation is Buddha's ear. What it means as such is that Buddha has a long ear, which means that it makes an individual more empathetic because the person is meant to listen and meant to understand because he is giving an ear to listen. So the understanding of humbleness, that an individual is more interested to listen than to open the mouth and speak, is a very philosophical understanding of why Buddha's ear is so long. That's one part. But apart from that, there is also a very interesting slit. You can see that it is here, and that also has a very interesting meaning. This meaning is very deep for us to understand when we try to understand Buddhism as such. This concept of tyaga or a sacrifice or a kind of a giving away or living away from certain things of elements of desire is very important part of Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and multiple other Indian religions as such. So one of these contexts is depicted with this slit. This particular cut in the ear represents the time when Buddha used to wear a earring, a heavy metal earring. But if you see physically, normally if anybody wears a earring and if you get a cut, the cut most of the time gets actually fulfilled or filled up, and you may not have that a big slot as such. But here it is a representation of Buddha's memory, that he remembers what he was, and then he remembers that he has sacrificed all those parts of his life at this moment, and then he became an important part of spiritual journey. So the humbleness of remembrance, that he was wealthy at a time, he had a lot of wealth around him at a time, but he is no more interested towards it, is a very very philosophical context of tyaga, that it is not that you are forgetting what you were, but it is about remembering what you are and what you will do for the humankind and the spiritual being as such. So Buddha's ear denotes two things. One, basically a long ear denotes that the person is an earful, that he is interested to listen. And then a slot in the ear or a slit in the ear actually shows that he was wealthy at a time, because he used to wear a lot of jewelries in his ear. But at this moment he is not, but he remembers what he was at that time. And this is a representation of his remembrance, that he is so humble that he remembers that he was a wealthy individual from a princely family or a royal family. But he has left all those things and come down and followed a spiritual path. So that remembrance is reflected with this particular, a visual interpretation. So I will request you all to look at Indian culture and understand these very Indian ethos and iconographies, which are very important as such to understand that philosophy is very well embedded in our visual representation or visual culture also. Thank you. Please do connect me if you have any queries related to this topic. I am only a teacher, a humble teacher. I am not a great Buddhist follower. I just try to understand a bit and try to appreciate and represent them in a very simple manner to all of you. Thank you. Namaskar.